Hello.
Hello.
Welcome, everybody. Testing 1, 2. Can we get a comment if we're online? Let's see. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the White Noise Podcast. I am your host, King COVID. And with me tonight, I've got Louis Nell, who is an app guy.
Please, Carter, call me Mr. Robot now.
Okay, I've got Mr. Robot. You're just lacking in the hoodie department, but I'll take it as it is. Mr. Robot, can you please give a brief introduction, who you really are and what you do? And yeah, let's start there.
Cool. So my name is Louis Nell, and I'm a software developer by trade. I look at code and write software for web-based and native app products. So my job is to create solutions and find tech solutions and software solutions for clients' problems. So I guess you could call me a glorified problem solver.
Yeah, solving problems one code at a time, basically.
That's it. And code is like poetry. So if you can write nice code, then it really is something special, like an artwork.
Yeah. Speaking of artwork, mainstream media's articles recently about the app is kind of a propaganda artwork in itself. You and I both had a discussion before the stream where we basically they say it's safe, but there's no analysis or no one went into the actual code from any of the articles that I read. And that's the reason why we're having this live stream, because I thought, well, if I want to know what's really going on with the app, who better to ask than an actual code developer or developer to actually go into the code and analyze it, so we know exactly what's going on. Because I asked a few people on social media and everywhere, and they basically just said, no, go away, you tinfoil hat wearing right person. And I'm like, cool, where's your evidence? And everyone is like, there's two camps here, the people that say, hell no. And then you get the other camp that says it's for your own protection. And I'm like, is it really, in an authoritarian government like ours, do you really trust them? Do you really trust them to develop an app, or a third party to develop an app and then put it on your phone? And I don't know about you, Louis, and audience, I'm a bit skeptical.
No, you're right. And it's good to say that we're skeptical off the bat. We won't hide that. I mean, anyone's biased, even the most objective journalist still has a form of bias. But I think let's present the facts and get into, I mean, we've done the study now, so I can present you with the facts, and then we can leave our listeners or watchers to make up their own minds about it.
That's it. So we have a bias, but the whole idea of this is actually to present facts, present it to you, and make it available to anyone listening to this episode, and you can make your own mind up. And then If there's other developers out there that also want to go through the code, you can get in touch with us. Please jump in, do your own analysis. We'd really appreciate that, actually. So without further ado, I'm giving you the dance floor, Mr. Robot Nell. And please present your findings.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's get into it. So this security audit that we've done is basically on the Android version of the app, and it's publicly available on the Android or the Google Play Store, and it's version 1.22 of the app. As you can see, there's some real nice marketing material for the app. Obviously, the government's got a very nice and fat budget to push this thing. So it looks really slick and really nice.
You misspoke when you said propaganda department.
Oops. Yes. Well, let's be prudent about it and call it So let's talk about the rationale. And a lot of the other reviews that are online at the moment that you've mentioned, they all start all from this point. So, I mean, this is what we've been told. So it is a COVID-19 exposure notifications framework that comes with the operating system. So if you have an Android phone or an Apple iOS device, then this part you'll receive that with an update on your device. So that framework that Apple and Google develops is meant to work with a public health app, which is the one we'll be reviewing tonight. It does rely on an opt-in system. So users have to install it and then run it on their phones. It also relies on self-disclosure. So if you have COVID-19, you have to report it voluntarily on the app. And we'll get into that later, how that bit works. And then if you've been in the vicinity of someone that has had COVID-19, then the app will notify you of that. So let's get on to the next one. So this just to show you the exposure notifications bit. This is what Google's developed. A lot of people have posted stuff, screenshots of this on social media to ask, how did this get on my phone? What is this? So that's just, it's part of the Google Play Services update that they've pushed to the Android devices. Right, so how does it work? This is how they say it works. So it generates a random ID. I haven't seen in the code how that actually, what the IDs look like, but we should get into that and look at that further. And the ID then changes every 10 to 20 minutes, that random ID. And the ID is then shared to another phone or device via Bluetooth. What we know from Bluetooth, the Bluetooth protocol, is that Bluetooth only has a maximum range of 10 meters. So, I mean, it'll only work for devices in that vicinity. And then those random IDs are then stored for 14 days on your cell phone. Right, so, okay, gotta just stop me if I'm going too fast. So I'm just brushing through this.
No, that's a good pace. You say you have a lot to cover, okay. So quite.
All right. So then the self-disclosure bit is, if you've had COVID-19, if you've tested positive for it, then the Department of Health will give you a unique PIN to enter into the app, and you have to put in your date of birth, and then that data is uploaded to a central server. This to me already shows that there's some form of profiling here, because if you've been assigned a PIN and a date of birth, that's very specific to an individual, and we'll see later how this ties into the overall product. So what data is actually tracked? Now, they say it only logs the date of your interaction, the duration of the interaction, and the distance between persons. So they measure that by looking at the strength of the Bluetooth signal of the randomized code that it received. And that's the data that they'll save or track. This is also according to their self-imposed rules, what is not allowed to happen. So obviously, it's not a tracking app, so it says it's not allowed to track your location, and it's not allowed to share your location or identity with anyone. Who can use this? So this protocol is only developed for public health authorities, and it must meet certain criteria and guidelines around privacy and security and data use. And my question is, what are those criteria? Because nowhere in this do they actually specify, or anywhere publicly, what the criteria is exactly. And then the apps that are developed by say the Department of Health, are they screened or checked against this criteria before they are actually submitted into the app stores? We can just speculate. So, right. Now, I think for our discussion, we should just talk quickly around what is tracking versus data sharing, because and this is just some general remarks. So in the world of surveillance and tracking, you can track a phone indefinitely if you know what the phone number is. So we know that already. And the NSA has done that extensively in the USA. So also, each phone has a MAC or hardware address. Your network card has a physical address on the phone. So even if it's if you change the phone number, there's still a hardware footprint on that device. And then there's also geolocation. I mean, anyone that's watched a spy movie where they have someone on the phone and they try and get their location, they always use cellular triangulation to find their position. So that's also possible. So just because GPS is not used doesn't mean you are not being tracked. So that's how cell phone triangulation works. So, I mean, all our phones are recorded against our number. So there is a record of who we are. So if you have a phone, there's already a profile that's linked to you. And then just an interesting note, what the Bluetooth network actually achieves is what they call a Bluetooth mesh network. So it's something like this, where each person is a device and then they connect to someone else, and it forms smaller networks of people. And this can actually be used in disaster scenarios to relay information. Say the internet is down, and in some countries where there were protests and the internet was shut down, they actually used Bluetooth mesh networks like this to relay messages and information to other people. So you can actually communicate very effectively using Bluetooth mesh network. Right. So I think this is where the meat of the stuff starts coming in. So the actual app, what permissions does it ask for when you install it? Now, firstly, it asks for internet access and Bluetooth access. And then, right. The third permission it asks for is it wants to access your phone's network state. This actually allows the app to access info about your phone's network, whether it be your cell phone network or your Wi-Fi network that you're connected to. So that can be anything related to that network, information about it, and yeah. The next permission is wake lock screen. So if you've ever installed another app, for instance, or anything like WhatsApp or something that runs in the background, well, this actually will wake up the lock screen and prevent the phone from entering sleep mode. So it keeps your phone on, literally, the screen awake, so that you can see notifications and receive notifications. So on that little image there, it just says it keeps the CPU or the processor awake. It turns on the screen and it keeps the screen on. So it's basically like your computer or your laptop that's plugged in and switched on and it's working. It's not going into hibernation or sleep mode. It'll literally be on and processing and communicating.
I take it this reduces your battery life. Definitely eats away at your battery.
Exactly. And what we know from phone usage is that your screen is a big culprit in terms of battery usage. So
yeah,
the longer your screen stays on, the more battery you use. And obviously also because it's actually processing data, it'll also use some battery there, but not ideal for battery life.
Yes.
And then it'll also, I think it's a fourth permission, it'll receive the boot's completed status. So the app wants to know when your phone has been restarted or shut down and restarted, powered off and on, so that it can auto start in the background. So it needs to run after that event. So it actually listens for that event, so that in case you can't actually switch it off, it'll always come back on once you've installed it. And then the last permission is it runs as a foreground service, as a priority app, and not in the background. So there's just a screenshot. So you'll get notifications and it'll actually run the app. You actually can't kill it when you, if you try and exit the app, it'll still run. It'll still run because it's not a background application. Right.
Sounds like fun. Go on.
So that's just the permissions that the user explicitly has to agree to when they install it. And that's public. That's on the documentation. But people don't actually know what they agree to, so they just accept it. It also has it shares data with WhatsApp and Google Plus. I've no idea why, but these integrations for both. I presume it's for sharing the app with people that are on those platforms, so you can just send the link there. I haven't seen anything bad there, but it is built into the app, so just a mention of that. And then, it's also strange because Google Plus has been discontinued for a while now, so I don't know why they've included that. That's a bit strange. Right. Okay, so this is the more interesting stuff, and I'll try and keep it. We won't get too technical, but yeah. So this is the actual worrying bits. So we've analyzed the source code, have decompiled the application, and then had a look at the source code. And this is some of the functionality that's a bit worrying that's inside the app. So firstly, okay, let me just say, these are vulnerabilities in the application that aren't necessarily there because the developers deliberately put them there, but they are there because they are security holes, basically. So, right, unsafe file delete. So, they can be exposed. We can expose sensitive information to a third party that's not authorized to have access to the information. So there's a bug on some apps where, in the Android ecosystem, where if you delete photos that were taken, even after the chat has been deleted on some apps, then it still leaves the photos or data on the app, on the device, and then all other applications that are installed on the device can then read those files. So that's a very high priority bug that this application that has is vulnerable to. I think the app was Fiber or something, but it can happen with any chat app. If you have a secret chat, even with media in it, and you delete it, it doesn't actually remove those files. So that's why it's called unsafe delete, and those files are still available and accessible to other applications that have access to the file system. That means people can see screenshots or stuff that's been sent to you privately.
And that doesn't sound like spying on someone at all.
No. Like I say, this might not be intentional, but it is in there.
Yeah.
So
it's still a vulnerability that can be exploited. That's the problem.
It can be exploited by anyone, someone else maliciously, another application. It just makes it a bit, yeah.
We just gave you guys the first patch for this application, and you're welcome. Continue, Mr. Robot.
Great stuff. So the next worrying thing, you'll see I've marked them as priorities in terms of how hectic they are. This one's medium because they haven't prevented the application from taking screenshots and screen sharing. So any element on your screen, let me just backtrack there. So there's an exploit in the Android system where it can allow attackers or other third parties to take screenshots or screen sharing of your screen while that you're not aware of. So it's an exploit in the system UI part of Android. So yeah, obviously the application needs to prevent that for security reasons, so that it cannot just without your permission take screenshots or screen sharing. It can then see what you're doing in the application or elsewhere on your phone, because I mean this app runs in the background constantly, so it's got access to that feature constantly.
So if you install this app, if you're thick enough to do that, don't have any nudes on there. It can add badly for you.
Yeah, and we see now that worked out for a few celebrities, ruined a few careers, or made a few careers. Depends.
I just wanted to say.
Depends on what you're going for. I mean,
no, for sure.
You can, maybe someone should just drop their sex tape like this, you know.
Yeah, like let it leak into the internet, and it's not your fault. Anyway,
exactly.
moving on swiftly.
Moving along. So the next one is, and this relates to the screenshots. So there's no blurring for apps in the background. It's also quite a medium vulnerability because, I mean, it's not system critical. Data can leak through screenshots that have already been taken by yourself or that the system has cached. So developers should use background blurring, to obscure the screenshot, so that, say, if you do your internet banking, that this app shouldn't be able to see what you're doing on any of the other apps that are running on the device or running in the background, because sensitive mobile data can be exposed. So there's just a picture there of toggling between apps, or so you'd want the background apps to be blurred like that on the right hand side, which this app doesn't do. So I've also got links in this presentation at the bottom, so I mean we'll share this with everyone so that they can actually investigate this and click on the links and analyze what we have here. So I found this quite interesting. Apparently this is just a low vulnerability. So the app has a database on the phone called a SQLite database. It's a light version of SQL, and the thing is that the data on the phone is not encrypted. It's stored in plain text. So if you have WhatsApp, you'll see that it says you're sending messages encrypted from end to end. So it doesn't actually encrypt the data. It just stores it as you would plainly on the drive. So anything that has access to the physical device can then exploit the data. It's a very low level exploit, because not low level, it's a very low level threat, because you'd actually need physical access to the device. So it's a bit hard for people to exploit this. So I mean, they've just left it like that. But if your device is rooted, which means that all apps have administrator access, then whatever you install on your device will have access to that database. So then it's a problem. But yeah, it's not best practice to not encrypt your data, especially sensitive data like usernames and passwords and stuff. I haven't actually looked at the database to see what they store in there, but we should actually look at that and then see. Maybe some other clever app developers can help us. Right. So security flaws, we carry on.
So for the audience, what we do in this whole broadcast is we try to back everything that we say up with a bit of evidence. Like in this case, it's the code below. So anyone that's a bit into programming should in theory be able to understand this. For the layman like myself, we've got Mr. Robot to explain it. And as you were, Mr. Robot.
Sorry, I was just getting distracted here by your soothing voice. Okay, so the security flaws, I was just looking at the heading I was supposed to say there. So this is some of the program characteristics, so the style and the way they've put the application together. So a part of this application or this app is available to other apps. There's no restrictions. So this is a massive problem because it's not segmented for security reasons, and yeah, it doesn't specify which apps have access to it. It's literally open. So any app outside of this app will be able to launch certain activities within this app, and it allows dodgy apps or anyone malicious apps to gain access to sensitive information. So this is that bit of code there is from the actual source code. So there's an intent filter, and it's literally says that outside apps can then use this exposure notifications activity inside the app. Yeah. So that's not good practice. You shouldn't leave your app open for external services. I mean, this app uses the Android exposure notification stuff, but I mean, other apps can then use stuff inside this app as well, and that makes it open to exploitation.
That's soothing. Like my voice, that's very soothing, Mr. Robots.
So, I mean, this is just, so we won't go too deep into each of these. So this is just a general overview. So if there's any questions, we can dig a bit deeper into specific ones. But so in the programming, we use debugging. So when developers develop an application to find faults in the app, we run a debugger. So this app actually has the debugger information switched on or provided for, and then it means you can inject your own code to run in the app process. Yeah, that's not great. So they should actually, in the production app, have switched that off. So yeah, you don't want anyone to inject stuff after the fact and run it in the app. It's a bit hard. So it's just a media level vulnerability. And then you'll see, so if you plug your phone in with USB and you're a developer, you can actually run the app and then debug it on your phone with the source code on Android Studio, and then you can actually see the process of what's happening in the background, and you can change stuff on the fly, and you can actually develop the app or test it and then develop it live while you using it on a real device, which is quite handy. And then you'd use this debugging feature, but yeah, not on a production app. So what else? So there's some other security flaws here. It's missing native code. So what this allows is the app can be decompiled using reverse code engineering, which is exactly what we did to get the stuff. So this is the app in Android Studio. So I've literally decompiled it from the source code that was on the device. Sorry, from the application. So the APK or the Android package file, you can reverse engineer it or decompile it and then get the source code and then look at it. So
how can that go badly? Give us a scenario, practical one.
Well, literally, you if you have access to the source code, you could change stuff in it, recompile it, and then publish a new APK with the same name, and you can send it to people or have them install it. They wouldn't know the difference. So you could mask it as the same app. That actually happens a lot online because Android allows you to install apps from unknown sources. You get some apps that have been modified and have features added and dodgy stuff added to it that you can install. iOS is a bit more strict because you have to install stuff from the iOS App Store, and they're they're a bit more strict with what they allow, and they check the code properly. So it's a bit harder, but definitely the Android side, you could modify this and then redeploy it and use it for you could add stuff to it and make it even more malicious.
Yeah, that's my and then I think let's answer this while we add this. So I don't want this to be kind of a one-sided stream. So as we go along and I see questions, there are quite a few, and I know we want to get through the presentation and answer them.
Yeah,
there's rumors this was a collaboration, according to what we've read, Mr. Robot, that they said it is Google, it's iOS, it's a collaboration between different businesses. Do we know actually who created this, or is there kind of general framework and then governments can kind of tailor this app? What's the general notion about that?
Yeah, the framework is the exposure notifications framework. So the one that comes as an update to your phone. So that's already there. The groundwork is there. That is the Bluetooth protocol and the notification system. And then this app is meant as a companion to that service. So it ties into that, and then it works together with that protocol. You see, because it needs access to certain low-level functions on the device, like the Bluetooth and hardware stuff. So it needs that sort of access. So they've developed that from a manufacturer's point of view. So if it's like Windows or Microsoft developing something for Windows itself, and then you just bolt on this application on top of it.
Okay. Do we know where it's made? Where it comes from?
Good question. I'd love to know. On the App Store, on the Android, or on the Google Play App Store, it just says Department of Health. So they've white labeled it completely. They haven't said.
Yeah, someone did develop it. Do we know what the company is that actually developed it? Because we know very well government doesn't employ coders or web developers. Hopefully not. Jesus, if they do, that'd be terrible. Just like any other government SOE employee.
Exactly. No, I'm sure it's the private sector. I'd love to know who it is. There's lots of people that have said it's Discovery, and I don't know.
Yeah.
There's few role players in there, so I'd love to know, and we must find out.
Okay, so that's unknown at this stage, to be honest. There's no transparency.
There's no transparency, no.
Probably some tender, I don't know, money stolen, you don't even know here. Continue on. Stay on for the people that don't understand a damn thing. Ask the questions. I'll do my best to go through them all. So continue, and I'll throw in a few questions here and there.
Cool. Okay, so this is the fun bit. So that's what I've said. It gets better. So remember, at the start we said, according to the exposure notifications framework, the app is not allowed to track your location. That was one of the 2 points that it shouldn't do at all. So guess what? In this app, there is a class called for geolocation. So this Android, or they call it a class in programming, provides access to the system location services. These services allow applications to obtain periodic updates of the device geographical location, or to be notified when the device enters the proximity of a given geographical location. There it is, people, in the source code. So this is not an app feature. It's part of Android, the Android operating system itself. So your device, all the apps and all the location services feed into one point. So your device has a central point where it can find out, get your location from, and it aggregates data from your cell phone position. And obviously this doesn't use GPS, but it still reports your location. So it can know and will know where you are and what you're doing. And I found this in this file in the source code. And there's also a reference to the location manager on the Android documentation. So yeah, it literally says it. That is exactly what it does. So even though it doesn't track you, it follows you around and it knows where you are. because your phone's already a tracking device, so the app doesn't need to track you explicitly. It has access to that feature already.
Okay, I think two things that we can cover quickly because I see it's a recurring theme. Alan's question. If malware gets on your phone, will this make your phone, well, obviously malware in your phone is already a bad thing, but is your phone more susceptible to being attacked by outside malware in your opinion? Or can you kind of give us a dumbed down version of vulnerability with this app installed on your phone?
Yeah, so with app vulnerabilities like this, malware, if it gets onto your phone, it can exploit any of these features or lack of features. WASP, I think he's talking about those subscription services. I think it doesn't have access to send SMSs. As far as I know, to sign up to WASP, you need to send an SMS or dial a USSD number to sign up. So I don't think it'll be able to sign you up for any of that stuff, but not a malicious WASP service. Yeah, I think that what he's referring to is those subscription services.
Yes. And I think this is also one you can answer. So is the part of the app or part of the Google Play services? How do these two work together? Because the one thing you said, it uses some of the Google's features and then there's the app itself. How do these two intermingle and actually kind of create, let's call it backdoors or more vulnerabilities within the app? If you can, try to non-technically explain that as simply as possible, please.
Okay, so think of it like an iceberg. So this app is the part that you see above the water. It's only the little piece of the iceberg. So the exposure notification service is underwater. That's the part that handles the Bluetooth communication. It sends the codes, the random codes between the devices, and it handles all of the other more system-based functions. So it's more of a hardware level, like lower level functioning, where this stuff is more user interaction and added features on top of that framework. So I think the iceberg analogy is how it works.
Excellent. And then one last one before we move forward. Then technically, can it get your location if the app does not have the location permissions?
Yes. You don't need to have your location switched on or have your GPS switched on, because it has access to that get last known location. So it doesn't have to explicitly send the location. It gets it from your operating system, from the phone itself. And they've built it exactly like this, because if you were to allow permissions for location or GPS, then people wouldn't use it. So obviously they had to find another way to make it more palatable or acceptable. So
less obvious.
It's a sneaky way of doing it, but
it's the good old reach around of governments.
Exactly. So
please continue. I'll still answer some questions later. We just want to get through the whole presentation. Then I'm happy to throw some more questions to Mr. Urobot.
Yes. So we don't have far to go. So there's just a couple of more saucy, juicy stuff. So it also gets your network country ISO. So each network or mobile operator, cell phone provider has a specific network code, an ISO 31661 alpha 2, very long name just for code. So it looks like that. So ours is that ZA. So it gets your cell phone operator. So it can get, I don't know what, but it gets stuff related to your cell phone network from using this method. It's this get country network country ISO. So that's more identifiable information. So I can obviously see where you are and then on which network you are. So that's quite quite specific information about you and where you are. I don't know what to make of this. I think what would be better is then to actually run this on the device and see, and actually let it track me and see what happens,
So that will be probably episode 2, where we let it run for 3 weeks to a month and then actually do a dissection of that. That would be interesting.
Yes. And then one of us should get COVID so that we can report our status on the app and see if it, what happens then.
Well, maybe we'll disappear forever. You never know.
So maybe. So who's going to take one for the team and get it?
I'll put it on my spare phone, but no, I need to put it on my primary one. But I just have to have a battery pack with me all the goddamn time, because it's draining that battery life like it's no one's business. So I'll take one for the team.
Nice. And we need to ask some of our listeners and watchers here if they're also keen to help us with this trial, to run this app and see if it confirms what we've discovered here. That should be a fun experiment.
Good luck with my audience of getting that. You must get one of those trendy lefties to do this. Not this audience. There's no bloody way. I'll take one for the team, but I don't think my audience is dense enough. I don't hope so. Please confirm this in the comments.
If they do install it, then they haven't listened to this presentation,
or they do it for the science. So yeah, we'll talk about that a bit later. So continue, please. Thanks, Mr. Robot.
It's for a good cause. So this is the last one. So this is quite a high level programming concept. The app uses Java reflection. Now, I'm not a Java programmer myself, so I don't know this. And the funny thing is, only of all the programming languages, only Java has this feature. So it is a feature that allows the code to look at itself. So it's almost like it's intelligent. It can examine itself and then manipulate internal properties of the app. What I've researched is that it's a bad idea because it doesn't make your code clear for other developers, and it's bad for performance, understanding the code and then adding and developing. It's not very robust. So obviously,
can I ask something? Can you sneakily sneak some extra code in there easily with that? Having said that,
you can modify what stuff's supposed to do in the code. So say for instance, you have a function called ride bicycle, and it's got to do pump up the tires, get onto the bicycle, ride the bicycle. So and that's how you understand it. You can actually modify that thing to include other actions or execute other things in there that it's not supposed to do. So that's what this feature allows you to do. I don't understand it from a very technical level, and maybe we should ask a Java developer.
Caesar, maybe in our second analysis we'll get a seasoned Java person up as well. So we'll add him to the stream. I think that would actually be quite nice.
I agree.
Okay, and then so okay, continue.
This is literally just the last slide to sum it all up. So firstly, location tracking doesn't need GPS. I mean, there's more than enough positioning data and the user-specific data in here to track the user. The data storage is insecure on the device. We know that there is some data that is uploaded to a server, and then from what we've gathered, the battery life of the phone will be severely impacted by this app. And then we've looked at those exploits, and we can see that this app has some very serious security holes in it that will make the app very insecure. So that is the whole of my formal presentation. So let's chat.
Sorry, questions for days. So I went back a bit in time, so just be patient. I'll get to it. So dodgy idealist. No real testing, QC, QA test procedures were followed and measured against set standards. That can be true, or you leave enough doors open to slip in extra code and modify it as you go. So having seen all this, you can be right. It can be incompetence, but as I know, never, what is that said? Never associate to competence, but you can due to malice.
Subscribe.
There we
Yes.
go. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. So there we go, Dodgy. So that's my take on it. They're leaving a lot of things open to be modified. So my take on it is they did that for a bloody reason, because that's my take. But I'm a skeptical, anti-government kind of person. That's just me. And yes, I have the very same question. Another tenderpreneur, you'll see a few Maseratis and Bugattis and Ferraris in a few weeks on our streets, because some government's official or his family has won a tender. Go ANC.
God, so can I stop this screen sharing for now? Because then our faces will go big. Yeah, okay, thanks.
There we go. We also have this question from Shirley. What happens when you put it off, when you get on a plane and then on again? From a mesh network perspective, what happens in a simplified terms? Basically, I think that's.
So I mean, if it's completely off, the Bluetooth and positioning stuff won't work at all. If it's on flight mode, the Wi-Fi network, if there's one, and probably Bluetooth can still communicate. So technically it could still work in an airplane. It just won't be able to send data if there's no network connection. But the Bluetooth aspect would definitely work if it's on flight mode. So aspects of the app would still work. I mean, it's got a database on the phone. So I think if it loses network connectivity, this is just an assumption it'll store the data on the phone itself. And then when it's got internet access again, it can then send that data and sync the data with the server and send those codes of the other devices that it has interacted with.
So basically, it just picks up where it left off the moment it gets connected and it's put on. It's just like saying, okay, you are now in Joburg, you're now in Cape Town. Taking the time you got there, you probably had you caught a plane and you're now here, and we keep on collecting the data merrily in the background. That's basically the gist of it.
Yeah, and most apps are built like that to handle network interruptions. So I think it's just a convention now that it can just connect and disconnect and carry on. If it's switched off completely and you switch it on again, then the app will auto restart because it listens for the restart event. So it'll know your phone's rebooted and it'll know, okay, it has to restart automatically. So you won't even have to turn it the actual app on again.
Okay, so Alan's asking, so in short, load or not load? Hope to return to SA in the next few weeks. It will be worth loading or legal or illegal activities. So Alan, if I'm not mistaken, you are forced to install the app upon arrival, or if you travel internationally, then you actually have to install it. I don't know how they monitor it. My guess is arrive here with a 3310 and put your smartphone far away so these bastards don't see that you have one or something. I would do that. That would be my thing. Hey, I'll go resurrect a 3310 or a 5110 and just roll with that, or a smart calculator or something. How do we know how they monitor that? That's a good question. How it's being enforced? Does anyone on the ground know what's happening? If you do, please drop it in the comments. How this is being enforced? Do they actually take your phone and say, "Oh, install app," and then you have to do it, or like, will they arrest you if you don't do it? What's the kind of vibe? Or they probably won't allow you into the country. So we've got a very nice government like that.
Yeah, if you have a feature phone that actually can't run apps, how are you supposed to install this app? Then it's impossible.
Or you don't have a phone to begin with.
Yes, which lots of people don't.
Okay, I think we're going to keep running this for, I think, the next 5 minutes or so. I'm not seeing a ton of questions coming through. So we'll still be on for a bit to take some questions. I'm just going through the comments. I'm going back a bit in time, see if I missed something.
I think someone said that doesn't look like source code. I think it was Shirley or Heather. Sorry.
Yes.
So she's asked a whole lot of questions about the app. That doesn't look like the source code. I think it was on a slide with just some normal slides, but yeah, we did show some of the source code in the actual slides.
If someone wants to give some feedback, other developers out there, how can they get hold of you or the code or anything that can help them also see what's going on at the back end? Can you maybe give some info there?
I think the best is to chat on Twitter. So I'm on Twitter at Louis Nell. You'll find me there. And if you Google my name, you'll find my website. You can drop me a message there on the contact form. I won't give out my email directly, but if you send me a message on there, it comes to my email. So then I'll respond to you personally.
That's good.
Yeah.
Very Mr. Robot of you.
Never give out your email, because there's a lot of email scraping bots and stuff on the internet, and you'll get lots of spam. So if you write it out, even on social media, just put spaces in between or obscure it a bit so that they can't just get it.
Yes. Okay, I see a new comments. Carter, did you see an 8-minute long video by an app developer? My mother sent it to me and in WhatsApp. Is it that one about Daniel Eleutheria, where it's that boot with his Missy on and his headphones, and it's just basically scrolling through the conditions? If yes, Louis did have you did watch it, yeah?
Yeah, I think I sent it to you, and you said you've seen it already.
Yeah, it's a very. He's reading over terms and conditions. I don't know if the guy's a developer. He might be. Like I said, I don't have any conclusive evidence. In my mind, the reviews actually, in theory, can make sense. A lot of them seem overtly praising the app. It almost seemed scripted. Like if you read through the 5-star apps, it's almost evangelical. And in my mind, that's always a red flag for me. So I would actually, with regards to that hundreds of positive 5-star reviews, Mr. Robert, can you explain what that means? If in my mind, the more good reviews you get, the quicker the app propagates and more people it gets recommended by the store, or what usually happens if you've got an influx of positive reviews?
Yeah, well, it builds confidence in the app. I think what someone said is when you see so many skewed reviews in terms of too many positive or too many negative reviews, it's a bad sign, because it looks like it's artificially, those reviews are artificial. Also, I'm just looking at the Play Store now. As of now, there is 733 reviews, but the app has had the ratio between reviews and installs is quite high. So it's had 100,000 plus installs and only 733 reviews. So in relation to that, it's actually not that many reviews, and most of them are 5 stars. So that should be worrying. And the 1-star ones are also quite dominating. I think at least a quarter of the 1-star compared to the 5-star reviews, at least the same amount of them, a quarter of those are 1-star reviews. So it looks like, it's very polarized. So obviously the 5-star reviews are, we should just question those if they are legit.
Like I say, they've got that bloody evangelical tint to it, and I never trust those. It's like that typical people that walk around with the Bible under their arm. I don't trust people like that, and that sounds a bit too evangelical to me. So I'm always cautious. I see red flags just like my shirt. So I'm going to be a skeptical asshole in this one, and I agree with Amy. It's easy to buy reviews. Just like if you start a trend on Twitter, pay a few people, hashtag it, and you've got a trend. I think similar tactics were used. It was probably included in the tender, the cost to buy some good reviews for them, most definitely. And my problem is, if this was created why wasn't there public tender? This thing happened completely under the table, under the radar. I haven't seen anything publicly saying anything about this. So again, I'm a bit skeptical.
And also the turnaround time, because I mean the curve has already been flattened. So according to the health authorities, the lockdown was to help flatten the curve. So we've passed that point now, and we're at stage 1, and we've only got this app now. So what is the purpose of this? I mean, what further spread, or what further? I mean, is it to prevent a second wave, or we have to ask those questions.
And then also, like you say, it's coming up at the arse end of the COVID scamdemic. So one has to ask, what is the intent? Now, if you're not selling or buying this, chances are, could be, just my skeptical mind again, that you are the product. So whatever data is being captured from you can be resold, and it can be monetized, and someone can make a shit ton of money off you. FYI. Facebook is well known for this. Instagram, I see Takealot even, strangely enough, we had one that all these social media apps actually collect and do a lot of dodgy stuff. They have overtly high permissions for what they actually intended to do. I don't know, Mr. Robert, if you want to comment on that maybe.
No, you're completely right. And that's, I mean, if you install a social media app, at least they're honest about it, and you know that they're tracking you and what they're collecting about you. It's all in the terms and conditions, and you are the product. You give your privacy away for that service. So if this app does what we now know it does, at least be honest about it. Don't say it doesn't track you and then it actually does. So yeah, that's a surefire way to lose trust from people that don't have much trust.
I just wanted to say, if you're expecting anything good from a good old ANC, you're sorely mistaken. You use words like trust. I mean, they own their own bloody integrity commission. I love when there's a sentence with ANC and integrity. It's just like, no, those things should not be in the same sentence, nor in the same universe, as a matter of fact. So it's quite interesting. I think another one, okay, has anyone, okay, no one here has installed it. Is there any ads running on the app that you know of?
Not that we can see.
Probably propaganda. I think this is a great propaganda tool for the government, don't you think? They can push a lot of things through this app, most probably. Again, we need to test that and see.
Yes, we'll have to actually run the app and then see what comes through. I mean, it has notifications that pop up on the home screen because it runs as a priority app. So technically, they could send you messages and updates and stuff. So yeah.
Good one here from Alan Leroy. Who monitors the information? Who monitors the information? Does the public have access to that information? Because technically, we should. This should be transparent. This should not be behind closed walls or an encrypted server somewhere in the DRC or somewhere dodgy. Any feedback on that?
No, we don't actually know where the server is, where the data gets uploaded to. If that's part of the underlying the exposure notification service, then we have to assume that Google or Apple handles that, but we'll have to actually run the app and then check the network traffic to see, where it communicates to and where it sends that data. So, but I mean, the database part on the app, that data that gets stored there, that could also be uploaded elsewhere. So there's different parts of this onion that we have to peel back and see. It's not so obvious. Yeah.
Well, that we can do in time, and then we can get. I mean, you're in the dev community. You know whose door to knock on for some expertise, more Java expertise. So we'll just add more Java to this equation, and I think it would. Well, hopefully we'll get more answers. Another one. I seriously think this app is to condition people for the social credit rating apps like they're currently using in China, which is worrying me. So in China, you've got a credit system for how good a person you are according to the government. And the higher that score is, in the more affluent areas you can stay and more privileges you have in a government authoritarian society. So the government decides how well you can live and can't live, whether you can travel and other civil liberties. They dictate that, yes. So they keep you obedient and you obey, and then they give you some credit and you can aspire as high as you want to and have lots of privileges. Nothing wrong there, guys. I mean, so it sounds like a utopia to me, which our government is ironically striving for as well. Okay, I think we're closing down now. A few episodes.
Amy asked if we're going to get a second part to this.
Yeah, there definitely will be a second part. The second part will pull in more expertise, and we'll actually use the app and see where the data goes and do in more in-depth analysis. And also, if we find anything new or changes in the code, we'll update everyone. Okay, I see there's one from Alan. So if a cluster is identified, who will notify you that you are COVID-19 positive? So let's say they trigger that.
Yeah. So the app, it just says the app will notify you if you've been in close contact with someone that has had and has disclosed COVID-19 to the app. So even if they have the app, you won't know, but so it still relies on the self-disclosure of the person, but the app will notify you on the app.
Great chat. And then no point in me getting a social credit rating. I failed it off the bat. Yeah, if you're a non-conformist like myself as well, yeah, I agree with you. Count von Totenkopf.
Nice title, Count.
Yes, I love it. You were double one Totenkopf. You upgraded. Am I correct? Thanks, Count Totenkopf. It's only a pleasure. If there's anything else, like my podcast is about making people state-proof. So building resilience, becoming state-proof, and immediately this thing smelled fishy for me, and it seemed like an infringement of rights of government spyware. And I think given the nature and the findings of this presentation, I think it's they haven't clad themselves in glory. Let's just put it like that for now, but we'll continue to investigate. Yeah, Count Totenkopf has upgraded. Beautiful. Okay, well, Mr. Robot, anything on a closing line from your end that you want to close off with?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't voluntarily install this app, but now I will do this because in the name of research and development, and maybe we can offer some valuable feedback to the app creators. So I think, as users, we should test this app and then let them know how bad it is.
Yeah, like it took you how many days to do this analysis?
Well, it was, I'd say, about 3 days just to wrap my head around all the stuff. I mean, if you could probably get this done in a day if you started early and you went through everything. And
so you're talking 3 short days, so not a full 8-hour stretch. So no. 3 days you put some time aside, and if you had to say how many hours in your mind, what would your total time be that you spent on this about?
Probably like 8 to 12 hours max.
I'm going to get you Toggle, and you can time your time here, and hopefully we can get someone to sponsor you for your time and your valuable community service.
Now you're talking capitalism in action.
There we go. We have to reward you somewhere. We'll find a way. Like, even if I have to send you some beer or whatever you drink or don't drink, well, we'll find a way. But anyway, everyone, I'm going to close the stream down. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I'll make this a podcast episode, and I'll also add links to the actual presentation for reference, and any other information that Mr. Robot wants to add, I'll add it to our resources section. And yeah, everyone, stay safe. Only download this for research purposes. Don't be dense like Pictured, and download it and actually think it will help you. Cheers, everybody. Bye.
Bye.